Hello. This video will cover the basics of tarot reading. I don't know how many of these I'll make, but so I'll start with the very basics and then go from there. Okay, so the first thing, I'm using the Rider deck. It's the one I prefer. It's got all the pictures tell stories. I'll get into that. But it's the easiest one I've found. I've tried a couple others, and this is the best one that I've found. And the book that goes with it was written by Eden Gray. And this was written in the 70s, and I think the deck was created a few years before that, maybe in the 60s, all the artwork. Okay, so if you have a deck, if you already have a deck, and you might have a book, but if you don't, I suggest that you get the Rider deck and get this book, because this says everything you need to know. It makes it very easy. Let me get to here it shows the layout for the Celtic cross. Put 10 cards down. It shows you how to do it. And it gives you all the meanings for each place. It tells you everything you need to know. This is a very good book. I'll put the links in the description. You can get them on Amazon. So I'll put the 2 links in there, and you can just find it there. I think the book is about $8, and I'm not sure what the deck is, if it's around 12. This one's about 20 years old, and I've got another one that's about 10 years old. So I think this one might have cost about $8 when I bought it, but now they're probably up around 12 or 13. But it's well worth it. Okay. I had originally had the box, but the box wore out, so I got a nice little pouch, and you can carry it in there and protects it. So that's a nice thing to have. The box is going to wear out, opening and closing it and taking the cards in and out. And I had Scotch tape all over it and holding it together. So a nice little pouch is good. Now, the best thing to do when you get the deck is read the book and then learn about the different cards. And it took me a while to learn. My memory works better with pictures, so that's why this one works best, because each picture tells a story. So I can look at the picture and I can see the story in the card, and that helps me remember, because there's so many different meanings. But you don't have to be afraid. If you look at the book, you might get a little scared. Let's just pick one. Like, those are all the positive meanings, and these are the negatives. And each card has all these different. I'm doing this without my glasses on, so it's a little hard. This one has all this for the positive and this for the negative. So you might look at that and think, I'll never be able to remember that. But you do. You'll pick it up after a while. It might seem a little daunting at first, because there's so many meanings, and it's reversed. It's upright and reversed. And in most cases, when it's like this, when it's the upright, it's a positive meaning. Not always. And then when it's reversed, it's the negative. So if you look at it that way, it's pretty simple to remember. Like this card, the Fool, that's the first card in the deck. The card 0. And it's a major arcana card. And there's 22 major arcanas and 56 of the minor arcanas. And this card talks about the Fool starting on his journey. And each person in his life starts a journey. And if you're starting on learning how to read tarot cards, you're starting a journey. You're starting a quest. And this person, when it's up like this, it's a very good card. But it also has warnings. It has good things and it has warnings. But then when it's like this, it says like the fool is starting his journey, make good decisions. The person is a dreamer. An adventure is beginning, things like that. But then when it's reversed, it's saying things like, don't be foolish, talking about bad decisions. So that's a good way to do it. But some cards, this is the love, Two of Cups, and that talks about friendship, things like that, good things. But when it's reversed, it talks about a relationship breaking up. So, arguments with friends, between friends. So most of it is pretty easy like that. And some of them can get kind of difficult where it'll be reversed. Looking for one. These are all, what do we got here? These are all examples of when it's upright, it's good, and when it's reversed, it's negative. But here's a card. That one seems pretty like something terrible is going to happen, but it's actually a good card. And it has, when it's in this upright position, it has a lot of negative things, like destruction and disruption of your way of life, things like that. But it also has this was a good one with the story, because these people built up a lot of wealth, and they focused on wealth rather than the spiritual side of life. And they built up all this tower, this big tower. And then the lightning bolt of truth comes in and destroys the tower. And then this man and woman, they fall from the windows, and they're falling to their death. It's all rocky down here. And you think they're going to die, but actually they don't die. They live, and they learn from the experience. So even though all their wealth is taken away and the tower is destroyed, they learned that they were on the wrong pathway, and they should have been looking at spiritual things, trying to improve their inner self rather than building up wealth and power. So it has a lot of negative meanings, but it also has that meaning of now they're going to realize that the right way to live. Then when the card is this way reversed in a layout, it means that the person has found spiritual things over money. They've given up that quest for money and are searching for spiritual things. So this is an example of one where when it's upright, it's negative, but when it's reversed, it's positive. Most are the other way around, positive than negative. But you'll learn that. It takes time. But the good thing, I used to bring the book with me wherever I went, put it in my backpack, and when I would think about a card, I'd say, well, what is the meaning of that card? Then I'd look it up in the book, and that would jog my memory. So it's good to have that book around. I'm always looking at it, even now. After 20 years, I still look at it, because there are all kinds of little meanings that I forget. So, okay, let's see the basic layout. I've got some other videos that talk about a court card. We'll start with that. And the major arcana and minor arcana. They're in my playlist on the channel. So just go into the playlist. There's, I think, 3 playlists, but it's one about, it says how to, tarot reading, how to, and I'll try to put an end cap on this video with some links on it. I've never done that before, so I'll try to do that in this one. But okay, first thing is to pick a court card. And the court card would be like a queen, or a page, or a knight, or a king. And let's just pick this one. And for instance, you're going to read for somebody, and the person you're reading, you're the reader, and the person you're reading for is the querent. So they might, if they've done readings before, they might already have a court card they like, and they'll say, I want the Queen of Cups. But if they don't, then you can go by what the person does, their profession, what they look like, their age, whether they're married, things like that. And then you pick the court card and you put it in the center of your little area, and that represents the person you're reading for. And then you shuffle the cards, get this done first, then you shuffle, and you can shuffle any way you want. My fingers aren't that dexterous, is that the word? So I had trouble, doing all those fancy shuffles you see. But a lot of times I'll just shuffle like this, and then I'll do the one where you do two of them like that, and then do that thing. I can hardly do it. My fingers weren't meant for that. Good thing I'm not a brain surgeon. Do one of these. That's a good one. But the thing is, you want to do a lot of that kind of stuff so that you get the pictures reversed. If you just do this way, then all the pictures are going to stay the same. And when you get a brand new deck, you just want to shuffle the heck out of it and switch things around so the pictures, or you'll end up having, all the pictures will go the same direction. Someone wrote me a message once on one of my videos and said, how do you get, all my pictures are upright, how do you get the pictures to go reverse? And I couldn't understand why they weren't getting, because if you shuffle, I guess if you get a new deck and everything's upright and you only shuffle like that, the pictures never turn around. So you got to do it so everything's mixed up really good. Then you start with the first card, and it always goes. So let's say you put your deck here. Can you see it? Right there. Let's put it there. And then you turn it this way, and it goes right on top. And it's called what covers the person. It talks about the general atmosphere of the question. So let's say that sometimes the querent will ask a question, or sometimes they don't want to ask a question. They want to keep it to themselves. But usually they'll ask a question. They'll say like, am I going to make a new friend? And then the first card will talk about the general atmosphere of that question. And the Chariot happens, I'm just picking random cards, but Chariot happens to be a negative card. And it shows loss of control, loss of direction, things like that. So if the person asked, am I going to get a new job? This might be a negative response to that. And it might say that they're losing control, or that they don't have control over the situation and they have to wait and see what happens. They have no control over whether they're going to get a new job or not. Something like that. But this first card talks about the general atmosphere of what's happening in that question. And then the second card, it says it crosses him. This one, it says it covers him. And this one says it crosses him. So it's the forces that are working either for or against it, either for good or for evil. And this card happens to be a good card. And when you put this card down, it's always read upright. It's sideways, but it's always read up like an upright card, in the upright position. This one's in the reverse position, and this one's always read upright. So that card, just for instance, would be a positive card showing new activity. So then, if it's the job questions, let's say, this one might be saying you have no control over it, but this one might be saying that there's new activity coming. So maybe something new is going to happen later on this month. So that would be an idea. Then the third card is down here. It says it's below him. It's the foundation of the question. So that one happens to be a negative card because it's reversed. That's the justice card. And when it's this way, it means that you will get justice. She's sitting between the pillars of justice. She's got her sword and her scales of justice. But this one happens to be reversed, so it says that bad things are going to happen to you, like you'll lose a lawsuit or you won't get justice. But that's in the past. That's a past card, a foundation. So maybe it's saying, with that job question, maybe it was saying the person was being treated unfairly in their job, and that's why they're wondering about getting a new job. So that's good. Then this fourth card is something that it's in the past, but it's just passing away into the present. So if, let's say, this reading is on, or this video is on November 21st. So if I were doing a reading for someone, I might say this is the first half of November going into the third week, and this would be the third week on. So this is something that's happened in the past and it's influencing the present time, but it's passing away. This one happens to be a negative one. That talks about negative friendship, things being stagnant, stuff like that. So all these negatives. There's, in this little spread so far, there's 3 negative cards and 1 positive. So that's interesting. Now the next 2 cards are the future. And this is something that may happen. That's very good. That's a very good card. Temperance. That shows good combinations. The angel has 2 cups, and he's pouring this liquid from back and forth. And one is the conscious and one is the subconscious. And it's saying that if you want to do something, it starts in the subconscious, and then it goes to the conscious, and then back and forth. But an idea will start in the subconscious and then go to the conscious, which is reality. So you'll start with an idea, and then it becomes reality. So that's what that card is saying. So if we're doing a reading, you might say, and it also talks about good combinations between people, like coworkers. So if we're on that question of a job, it might say that you might have had injustice in the past and had trouble with your coworkers, but in the new job, you're going to get along with your coworkers. There's going to be good combinations. Is a good one for that. If it were reversed, it would talk about bad combinations, not getting along with people. But finally, we got 2 good cards up. And that's something that may happen. And then the second future card is something that will happen. And that one happens to talk about taking a journey. These tell such wonderful stories. Here's a lady with her little child, and she's in this boat, and this guy is moving her across the water to this new land over here. And when it's upright like that, it talks about maybe she had trouble somewhere in her old home, and maybe she has to leave her home. See how she's all covered up, like she doesn't want anyone to see who she is. She's got leaning forward with her hoodie on, and she's kind of hiding, and she's escaping something negative. But if it's this way, it means new opportunities are coming. If it's this way, it means you're escaping something negative, which in this case may be this negative thing down here, this injustice. She's escaping this injustice down here, and she's going to a new land and starting over. And it could mean travel to a job, travel to a new apartment, to a new land, a new city, a new country. And she's going across water, so it might mean traveling over water. So each card has a story, and I love these because sometimes this one doesn't really have a story because it's just a wand with a cloud. But most of them have stories. A lot of the decks I see will just have like the 7, 6. I can't see without my glasses. Will have 6 swords, and it won't have anything else. And you have to remember what the 6 swords mean. But this one has the boatman and the lady and her child and the water, and it tells a story. If I just saw 6 swords, I'd have to think about back to this card and remember what this card is. I couldn't remember 6 swords as meaning anything. Now the next one is the fear card, and it goes right down here. So we've got 6 cards up, and then here's the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th positions. And that's what the person fears. Negative feelings the person might have towards the question. And it doesn't really fit in. That card, a lot of times, half the time, it doesn't fit in. So when I'm doing a reading, what I do is, if you watch my videos, I'll put that one right there. And instead of just basically a fear card, a lot of times this will fit in with other cards. It goes here, but I like to put it here. But we'll put it there. That's how they do it. But I noticed that half the time it doesn't fit in, because that's, in this case, that wouldn't fit in. That means victory, triumph. You're going to win a battle. Things like that. Because it's swords, and swords are a military thing, action. Some kind of military action, some kind of like a police action. My brain is freezing up. That's why I need the book. I always look at the book. So this one really doesn't fit in as a fear card, and it might go better with something that's happening here, like a new beginning. These 2 cards are both the aces, so it might fit in with this new beginning. So you can do things like that. If you find that it doesn't work well in a position, you can change things a little bit. It doesn't have to be strict. All right, the next one is friends and family, and that's actually a good card. And this card has 2 different ways you can read it. It could mean that something is going to happen to a friend or family member, or it could mean that their actions are going to influence this. So it could stand by itself and mean that a friend or family member, in this case it shows a man giving to poor people. He's giving to charity. He's a good man. And if it were reversed, it's the opposite. It means he's a miser and stingy. So you see, it's really easy. If you get the story, you know that this man is giving to these poor people, and in this upright position, it's a good one. And oh, he has scales, and she has scales. Justice has scales. That means giving fairly. So maybe if this were an actual reading, you could say there was injustice here, and then there's going to be justice here, because this is a negative and this is a positive. So they connect like that. So it could mean that one of your friends or family members are going to do something and give to charity, or it could influence you, and it could mean that a friend or a family member is going to give you something, and that will help you out of a bad situation. Like if it's if you were looking for a new job and you needed money, this person is going to give you some money to get you to that first paycheck of the new job. And then that's where she's going here, to a new job. And then ninth card, that's what you wish for, what you hope for, which happens to be a negative card. So a lot of times that one, the fear card and what you hope for, often turn out to make no sense at all, I've noticed. And you've got 3 aces up, that's interesting. But this one is a negative card. That means negative things happening in the spirit and friendship. So that would make no sense as a card you'd hope for. But since I didn't ask a question really, and we're just taking random things, this one doesn't make sense and this one doesn't make sense. But the others tell a story. Now, final outcome, the 10th card, and that goes right up there, and that happens to be a negative card. So if this were a reading, then that 10th card should be positive. But sometimes it's got a 50-50 chance of being either positive or negative. And if it's a negative card, you try to make something good out of it. Like this one, if it were like this, it would mean moving forward, pushing forward. If you're working on a project, you're moving forward strongly and bravely. But this way means all the opposites, like weakness and stagnation. And that would be a terrible card for a final outcome card, because then it's supposed to wrap everything up. And if that's an example of something that does happen once in a while, where you'll get a negative card right there, and then you try to make the best of it, you could say that it's a warning card, and it's warning you not to be weak and not to slow down, to keep moving forward. You try to put a positive twist on it. Another possibility is that you could either take another card and put it there, an 11th card, and in this case it happens to be another negative card, so then you're stuck again. You've got 2 negatives. And then another way, which I don't like to do, I've never actually done it, is if the last card is negative, then you could take all these cards, except for the court card, these other 9 cards, and put them back in the deck, and take this card and put it on top of the court card, and reshuffle and start all over. But in this case, if this were an actual reading, I wouldn't want to do that, because most of what's here is telling a good story. That the person lost control of something, and then something new is going to start happening, and there was injustice in the past, and something else negative in the past. But then in the future, it shows that the person is going to have good combinations. Good things are going to happen, or they might take an idea and turn it into some good, actual, real thing that they could sell or use. And then this one talks about the person moving out of a negative situation, which is here, and going towards something new and starting over. Then this one talks about charity and good things. So in this case, there'd be a lot of good things, and I wouldn't want to redo all this, because that's good. So I would just take this one and turn it into a positive, like a warning card saying, don't slow down, don't be stagnant, don't lose your forward momentum. And then rather than reshuffle everything and lose all this, I'm starting to lose my voice. But that's how you do it. This one goes up here. And like I said, you can shift things around. I always put that one right there, because a lot of times that works better with this card or this card. So it fits in with this little area. But that's how you do a basic layout. And it's easy. There's nothing difficult. The most difficult thing is probably memorizing a lot of stuff. But if you get this writer deck, it takes care of that, because all you have to do is remember that story. The man is giving to the poor people, and he's got his scales of justice, and he's going to give to them fairly. He's giving charity to people. And if it's reversed, then it's the opposite. You just remember the story, and then you don't have to remember all kinds of little details. The details will be in the story, rather than those decks that have like 5 swords. I can't remember what 5 swords mean. I have to have the lady and her child and the boatman going across the lake. Then I remember the story. But if it just says 5 wands or 5 pentacles, or I don't know what that means. That means nothing to me. So this is a perfect deck. And this book explains everything, every picture, and then it gives a story before them. Here's the upright, and here's the negative, and it gives this whole story about what this is about. So this is a very good book. I'll put those links in there. But that should cover that first lesson. The basic layout, the basics. Okay, I hope this video isn't too long. Camera's still working. All right. I don't know what the next one will be. I might talk about the positive. You have to give a positive reading, which happened to work out good with this last card. That gets me thinking about how cards can be negative and positive, and you don't want to end on a negative. Let's see if we got anything negative here. Like a fear card. Oh, there's one. That's perfect. You wouldn't want that to be the first card that comes up, because that's a negative card. That means devil worship and temptation, being locked into negative things. So if that one happened to come up as the first card, you have to read it in a way that doesn't tell the querent that something negative is going to happen. But I think that'll be a good second video, because that gets into giving a positive reading. But that's actually a good card. You would think it's a bad card. Then this is an example of one that's negative when it's this way, but when it's reversed, it's positive, because they break all those bonds. They break that bondage to the devil, to the temptation. But I think that'll be the next video. All right, I hope that was helpful, and we'll just see how this goes. As you can tell, I'm not rehearsing anything. I don't have anything written down. I just go with my gut and see what happens. And we'll play it by ear and see how each video goes. But I hope that helped you. And it is easy. It's not difficult. Don't get scared by all the different possibilities, because there's so many different choices. But don't get scared about that, because you can, that one up again. You can remember the story. See how it matches up perfectly? This is a good book to have with this deck. It explains everything. All right, so that's it. And maybe I'll see you in a day or two, or later today maybe tomorrow, and I'll make another video, and we'll see what happens. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.